Billy? William Muldoon, I'm arresting you on suspicion of being in possession of various items stolen from...
You'll never take me alive.
Oh, I see. And why is that?
Because I'm going to kill myself.
Why are you going to do that?
Because there ain't no point in going on.
What, you're going to blow yourself up or throw yourself out the window?
Yeah.
Well, which is it?
I'm going to blow myself up.
You're going to blow yourself up?
Yeah.
With an alarm clock and a packet of frozen frankfurters.
You weren't supposed to know that.
I'm a copper, Billy. I know everything. Now, come on, stop mucking about. It's too hot. Where's the stuff you nicked?
In the wardrobe.
Thank you.
All right. Parcel for Mr. Lehman. Yeah, I'm going to need a signature for that, mate.
I'm going to sign for no parcel.
Yeah, well, someone's got to sign for it. Look, Hello? Hello? Oi!
Arrivederci, Mr. Muldoon. Do keep in touch. Oh, excuse I. Oh, hello. Is that the police station? Oh, good. I'm trying to get in touch with Detective Constable Davis, but he seems to have his phone off. So if you could tell him Mrs. Fulljames called, Dorothy Fulljames, and could he please move his possessions as quickly as possible, because I'm frightened of them getting damaged. Thank you so much. So then, who's for Earl Grey and who's for bricklayers?
I don't understand you, Billy. I mean, it's not even stuff you could flog.
I know. I see it and then something comes over me like I have to have it, do you know what I mean? I was going to kill myself. It's ruining my life.
Billy, if you wanted to kill yourself, you wouldn't do it with a packet of sausages.
Yeah, well, not you may, Mr. Davis, but it's becoming a terrible problem.
We've all got problems, Billy. Look at me. I'm having to move into new digs.
Why didn't you say? Could have stayed at my place.
Thanks all the same, but I prefer somewhere with sheets you can fold.
Yeah, well, it's what you're used to, innit? Here, any chance of calling in the doctors, Mr. Davis? I've got to collect my Valium.
Davis? Yeah, I'm on my way. You and your nerves are going to have to wait, I'm afraid, Billy. I've got a suspicious death.
You're saying the door was definitely locked?
That's why I called you.
There's no sign of the key?
Not in the building, not on him.
All right, thanks.
I had a word next door. If it is him, he's got a wife. She'll have a nice surprise when she comes home now. What about a boy? No sign of him. Looks like we've got ourselves a locked door mystery, Dangerous. Right up your street. Sorry about that.
It's all right. It's quite interesting.
Right, doctors, then straight to the nick.
Actually, I'm a bit peckish, Mr. Davis. I was wondering if we could stop off at McDonald's.
No, eat your bomb. Yeah, don't you dare. It's evidence.
Do you sleep?
You mean at night time?
I go to bed, go to sleep. 2 hours later, I'm wide awake, and that's it.
Have you tried lavender?
Lavender?
Sprinkle a few drops of lavender on your pillow. It's supposed to work wonders.
Bugger off. Yes? Right, thank you. His wife's back. You better go and hold her hand.
Yes, this is my husband, Morris Lehman. Thank you.
I'm sure you'll appreciate in a case like this, a case of unnatural or suspicious death, there are certain formalities.
I know you have your work to do, yes. I'm going to have a beer. Do you want one? I was in St. Albans having lunch with a friend.
So that the last time you saw your husband was?
Last night, after supper, he went back to the studio to work. He was a painter. You probably know that.
You're saying he was working in the studio all night?
Yes.
And you didn't speak to him before you left?
No, he didn't like to be disturbed.
The man who delivered the parcel said a boy opened the door to him.
That would have been Henry.
Henry?
Henry Romaine. He lives with us. My husband sort of adopted him.
Any idea where he is now?
No idea at all. Why?
Because we'd like to ask him why he disappeared.
He was probably frightened. He has problems.
How do you mean?
He has learning difficulties. There are things that he can't cope with.
Which is why he wouldn't sign for the parcel.
If that's what's happened, yes.
Have you any idea how the fire might have started?
If you mean, could my husband have started it himself? Very possibly. He was very careless with his cigarettes. I'd had to tell him about it more than once. Not that he took much notice of me or anyone.
What it does is it allows a free circulation of air, though covering almost the entire body.
So it's not just a fashion statement, then?
Have you ever seen an Arab in short trousers?
Yes,
Where?
in the 10,000 metres.
I'm talking about the desert.
Doesn't North Acton count as the desert?
I really shouldn't be wearing Y-fronts.
Oh, really?
Colonel Ord Wingate, one of our Second World War heroes, discovered when working undercover in the Middle East, and when it comes to sunstroke, letting one's genitalia run free is just as important as keeping one's head covered.
Well, that's about it. Sorry about the delay.
The thing is, you will be all right, Mr. Davis, will you?
All right.
Well, I'd hate to think I was moving you out of the frying pan into the... Well, I don't know, into the what, really?
Oh, Mod, you mean? No, he's fine. He's fine.
Yes. Yes, of course.
Listen, why don't we eat out? Phone Mario, see if we can have a table in the garden. What is it? What's happened?
How's Christine? Morris. He's dead. How could that happen? How could that happen?
I don't know, Jerry. What I do know is 2 years ago he marries this woman and now he's dead.
Oh, Ruth.
I don't trust her. I've never trusted her. And nor have you.
no sign of the key.
It certainly wasn't inside the room.
So there's no way he would be able to get out, not with the door locked. You realise what we have here, Dangerous? It's a classic locked door mystery.
So they keep telling me. What's all this wheelie?
What are you doing?
Parking.
You can't park here.
Why not? It's right outside the house.
Because this is where Mr. Stanlowski parks.
Who's Mr. Stanlowski?
The landlord, and I don't like drawing attention to myself, especially now that I'm subletting.
We're hardly subletting.
We've got a written agreement.
Have we?
Well, we will have once I've had it checked by a lawyer.
Lawyer?
Well, he's not really a lawyer, but he's got an amazing eye for small print. There's a space there if you're quick.
You don't think humping this lot down the street with you doing your Lawrence of Arabia might be classed as drawing attention to ourselves?
I do hope our future relationship isn't based entirely on you splitting hairs, Dangerous.
Actually, I'm not splitting hairs. I'm breaking my back.
There you go. His curtain just moved. Look like you don't know me.
But we've got a written agreement.
There you go again. If he says that and you're my cousin passing through. Dinner! I did have it in mind to clear it up a bit, but I couldn't find a window of opportunity.
Window of any sort would have been nice.
I did say it was more of a storeroom.
You did. Sorry.
Window's behind the wardrobe.
Very sensible.
Right, make yourself at home.
I will, thanks.
I'll put the kettle on. Great.
Some of those books weigh a ton.
Wisdom does. Mind you, some wisdom is heavier than others. Greek wisdom particularly. As you can see, I'm studying Homer. For about the 100th time, of course. But one always finds another nuance, another meaning.
Does one really?
Latin is an honor, Greek is a treat, as Churchill once said.
Did you say anything about putting the kettle on? You said you were going to put the kettle on.
The greatest enemy to art is the pram in the hall.
I'll do it then, shall I?
The thing is, we can either have a kitty and share or keep it separate.
Keep what separate?
Food, tea and milk and such like.
What do you think?
I think separate. Then there won't be an argument.
Argument about what?
About the tea and milk and such like. It's the little things that cause the greatest aggravation. You must know that, having been married.
Yeah, but we were a bit old-fashioned. We shared.
Look what happened.
You're right. Keep it separate.
That's what I thought. So, that'll be my cupboard. And that'll be yours. Starting tomorrow.
Oh, good.
Right, I'll make you up a list.
Don't forget toilet paper.
Toilet paper, good point.
Thought you were in your room.
Mrs.
What is it, Henry? Tell me.
Death by smoke inhalation, stomach full of whiskey, Middle of the day, that's interesting.
Well,
Is it?
Yes, Gov.
And something even more interesting. Evidence of a violent blow to the head. The skull being as badly burned as it was, you can't say much more than it occurred before death and wasn't the direct cause. So it's our old friends, how, when, where and why. It's time for a chat with a grieving widow, wouldn't you say? Well, go and get her then. As my colleagues already told you, Mrs. Lehman, you are simply here to assist us with our inquiries. You're free to leave at any time, and if you feel you need the presence of a solicitor...
No, I don't want a solicitor, thank you. What is it you want to know?
At the time in question, you were in St Albans?
That's right.
Having lunch with a friend?
That's right.
So you left home at...
Just after 10 o'clock.
And the last time you saw your husband was the previous night?
Yes.
Was that unusual for him to work all night?
Not at all. It depended on the mood he was in.
And you didn't think to look in on him before you left?
You didn't look in on Morris once he'd shut himself away.
Is that what painters do? Shut themselves away?
It's what my husband did. I can't speak for anyone else, painter or otherwise.
The post-mortem shows that he'd been drinking heavily.
Quite probably.
You're not surprised?
When his work wasn't going well, he drank. It's probably why he locked himself in.
there was only one key, you said.
As far as I know.
As far as you know, where did he keep it?
I don't know. In his pocket, I suppose? In the door, on a hook? It wasn't something we discussed.
And yet there was no sign of it. How do you explain that, Mrs. Lehman?
I can't explain it. I'm not sure that I have to.
The seat of fire suggests that it was not caused by a cigarette, but by some other means. The door was locked, but the key's not inside. Your husband had drunk so much whiskey that he apparently couldn't make the effort to save himself or raise the alarm. And there's evidence of a blow to the head. So, drunk or not, whether he could have done anything is... You see our problem, Mrs. Lehman. We have to ask you difficult questions at a difficult time. Well, I think that's all we need to know for the moment. Thank you. I appreciate your cooperation.
Can you think of anyone who might have a reason to harm your husband?
No.
No one at all?
No one at all.
I bought this fresh this morning. It's already off. Not exactly inconsolable, is she?
I don't know, Gav. Grief does different things to different people.
That's true. I cried for a month when my hamster died. Now, Princess Margaret, I hardly noticed. But... No. I tell her he gets thumped on the head and nothing.
Maybe she didn't take it in properly.
You reckon? A woman like her?
I don't know what a woman like her is. Not yet, anyway. But if she is involved, we'll be needing a motive.
If she is involved, we'll either find one or make one up. Won't we, Dangerous?
So there's nothing you want to tell us? No. Nothing you think might help us find out what happened to Mr. Lehman? Okay, Henry, thanks.
You've got work to do for Mrs. Lucas. Go on. It'll take your mind off things. He does odd jobs, gardening, things like that.
You said your husband adopted him.
About 3 years ago, before I knew him, my husband spent some time in the Caribbean. He became friendly with the family and particularly fond of Henry. He offered to take care of him if ever he wanted to come here. A year or so later, he turned up. Something like that, anyway. As I say, I wasn't married to my husband then. Is there anything else?
No.
Thought places like this had been run out of business.
They mostly have, yes. I've hung on by specialising. High-class kitchenware, aprons, gloves, tea towels, that sort of thing. 10 years ago, you couldn't get in here for women's frocks. From the wholesalers to the shops, 20 quid here, 200 quid there. I always said the markup is too high. Well, we paid for it. We certainly paid for it. This is my wife, Ruth. My wife, my secretary, my reasons for living.
Secretary, can I get you something to drink?
No, I'm fine, thanks.
Well, at least sit down.
Thank you.
Well?
All right, Ruth, all right.
No, it isn't all right. Say your piece.
Will you please leave this to me?
So speak.
We're a little uneasy.
Uneasy?
About my brother's circumstances.
She's 20 years younger than him. And let's face it, he was no George Clooney. Why would she marry him if it wasn't for the money?
Do me a favour, Ruth. Go and walk the streets for half an hour.
You see?
Please. This is my brother we're talking about. We just think it's strange, that's all. This woman comes from nowhere, he marries her, less than 2 years later he's dead, and she presumably inherits everything.
Are you saying you think she was involved in his death?
No, we're not saying that. We're saying that we think that you should look into it. We're saying there's a possibility. Morris was my younger brother. It was just the two of us, but let's be honest, chalk and cheese.
He was a taker. No sense of responsibility. I'm sorry, but it's true. Good at having lunches and smoking cigars and dipping into the petty cash. Petty cash, who am I kidding?
Just over 3 years ago, he wins the lottery. £2 million plus. No, we think good luck to him. Great. Now he can afford to pay back when he's been taking over the business. Help me with his ideas, I have.
And what does he say? He says...
I take your point. However, first I'm going to buy that nice house on the Ridgeway. Cash. And then I'm going to visit my good friend Keith in the Caribbean.
So he goes to stay with his friend Keith, who's got this hotel in Grenada, and he comes back and announces that he's leaving the business.
And why? Tell him why.
I'm going to be a painter.
What do you mean, a painter?
A painter. I'm going to paint pictures.
We're stunned.
Next thing you know, he's building this shed in his garden.
Studio.
And that's all he does. Paint pictures.
It made him happy.
It made you ill.
Waster or not, I worry about him.
It gets worse.
This is Christine. We're going to get married.
Whether it was him, whether it was her, we saw less and less of it.
She drove the wedge in, no doubt about it.
You can't say that, Ruth.
You know it and I know it. Be honest. We've got a situation here.
Yes. I have, yes. Oh, excuse me. We're talking 200 here, right? Well, we go.
All right. He's my husband's brother. But tell me this. He's 50 years old. How come he isn't married already? Because when it came to women, he was a non-starter. There was something about him. 1-to-1, he could be a very unpleasant person.
Meaning what?
Meaning I wouldn't want to share an intimate moment with him. Between you and me, right? He used to make passes at me all the time. Not nice passes. Ugly. He had a twisted mind. So I ask you again, what's a woman like that doing with a man like him if it's not trying to get a hand into his pocket?
I'm sorry about that.
Well, unless there's anything else.
We just thought you should know.
Yes, it's been very interesting.
Are you married?
Yes.
Give this to your wife.
This bribe?
No, it's a sample. Take it, she'll love it.
That was one of his first.
Is it any good?
You won't be needing me, will you? I have to go out.
No, thanks. Oh, yes, there is one thing, actually. If I could have the name of the friend you're having lunch with.
My God.
Sorry.
Are you still investigating the death of that painter?
I am, yes.
Funnily enough, I've just entered the art world as a means to an end, you understand?
Not for the art, then.
Art is as unimportant as banking. Unless it comes from a spirit and free play, then it really is banking.
What does that mean?
Art for art's sake. Money for Christ's sake. Have you been interfering with my spices?
What spices?
Somebody has been interfering with my spices.
Not me.
What, Icky the Fire Bobby, I suppose?
You know, that apron would have gone really nicely with your sheet. Pity you stopped wearing it.
Don't try all that.
Don't try all what?
I know you're a game, just trying to curry favour.
I'm not trying to carry anything. I haven't got any spices.
Well, yes, that's another thing you can add to your list.
Can we have a word about this list?
Like what?
Like, when am I going to get my own key?
Bloody hell, Dangerous.
So how do you get on with his family?
I don't.
Any particular reason?
I don't like them, they don't like me. He's not so bad. She's a cow.
So why don't they like you, do you think?
They see me as coming between him and what they think he owed them.
I had a word with your friend, the one you were having lunch with.
Lorna Barber? Yeah.
She says that although your appointment was for midday, you didn't arrive until nearly 1:30.
My car had a puncture. She must have told you I phoned her.
So that we only have your word that you left home when you say you did. No one having seen you leave.
I left home just after 10. My car had a puncture.
Where?
Between Arkley and Shenley.
So what happened?
I pulled into a lay-by.
Then what did you do?
What do you think I did? I did what any woman would do. I kicked the car.
And phoned Lorna?
Yes. Then I got the stuff out of the boot. God knows why, because there was no way I was going to get the wheel off. When this car pulled in, and a guy got out with a map. He was going to ask me directions, then he saw what had happened, so he very kindly put the spare on for me.
Bit of luck, him turning up.
We all have our share of luck sooner or later, wouldn't you say?
You wouldn't know what sort of car it was.
It was a Mercedes. One of those small things, silver, with an Easy Car Rental logo. And the man was Norwegian, a tourist. How did I know he was Norwegian? I congratulated him on his English and asked him if he was Dutch. And he said no, he was Norwegian. Of course, he could always have been lying, but I can't really see the point in claiming to be Norwegian if you're not. Can you?
This would have been about what?
By the time I was back on the road again, 12, quarter past, something like that.
So an hour and a quarter to do what, 6 miles?
He'd said that the spare wasn't up to much. It was dangerous, in fact, that I should get the other one back on as soon as possible. Just as I was coming into St. Albans, I saw a repair place and I stopped.
Even though you were already late?
I'd already phoned Lorna again, so I didn't have to rush. I took the tyre in.
And they repaired it?
No, they replaced it. I asked them why it needed replacing, and they gave me the usual stuff about it being safer. And I didn't argue, because you have to trust some of the people some of the time, don't you? Otherwise, you'd be sitting around asking stupid questions for the rest of your life.
I checked with Easy Car. No record of any car being rented to a Norwegian since April.
Well, what about the tyre people?
When she took it in when she said she did, they time-stamped the receipts.
The puncture could happen any time. When she took it in's only part of the picture.
What I don't figure is why she's so definite about this bloke, if he existed, being a Norwegian. I mean, she must know it would narrow down the inquiries. If she's lying, we'd be able to prove it.
Unless she's a very clever lady that's somehow keeping one step ahead.
Well, unless she's telling the truth.
Dear old Dangerous. You really have got to curb this terrible habit of seeing the best in people.
Now, what about this key business?
Yeah, it doesn't stack up. I mean, anyone who wanted to make it look like an accident would make sure that the key got put back inside the room. So why wasn't it? I mean, even if she was lying and there was more than one key, she'd still want to get it back on the inside.
Well, maybe the idea was to get it back inside as soon as the fire was set, but something went pear-shaped.
She wasn't there.
She says she wasn't there.
Which brings us to the possibility of an accomplice.
Oh, the boy was there. What's his name? Henry?
Nah, if he was involved, why would he let the courier in?
Well, he's not very bright, is he? He panicked.
Right, I want you to find out if there's any talk about her seeing anybody. I mean, Cherchez le Stud. And I want to know more about the husband, anything you can get. Bank statements, so on.
Right, Guff.
Right. Who's going to buy me a lemonade?
Is there anything else you want?
I don't think so, thank you.
I do hope you get a lot of job satisfaction, Constable Davis. There can't be much else, I would have thought.
What a bastard, eh? A bloke like Morris. Unbelievable.
I won't take up too much of your time.
I was just about to take a little dip. Don't mind, do you?
No, please.
See, I love the sun, but I need water. Oh, that's beautiful. Spare costume over there if you care to join me.
I haven't been in swimming trunks since 1995. Right-slip Lido. Investigating an indecent exposure.
I must say, you do see life, you blokes.
So, tell me about Morris Lehman.
I take it you lot being involved, there's something not right.
It's too early to say, Mr. Telfer. His brother tells me you knew him as well as anyone.
Oh, we go back years. I used to run this little boozer down the bush, full moon. Morris used to come in most dinner times. We started going racing together and stuff. Anyway, about 4 years ago, my joints start playing me up. So the doctor says I need a change of climate. So I takes myself off to the Caribbean, Grenada. Bought this little hotel. Very nice, very successful. Forgot all about the likes of Morris, to be quite honest. Anyway, I'm out there about a year, and I get this phone call. He wants to pay a visit. So out he comes, big grin all over his face, and says he's won the lottery. Says goodbye grindstone, hello life, and good luck to him, eh? Not that he was the most dedicated toiler of the soil. Anyway, we're there about a month. He's lying about, enjoying himself, having a good drink up, chatting to the local ladies, reading discarded paperbacks, when one night he comes up to me, eyes all sparkling, and he says,
I realise now what I was meant to be. A painter. I'm going to be a painter.
looking down from my hotel. Now is that, or is that not paradise?
Very nice. Did people buy them?
I don't think he was all that bothered, to be quite honest. Wouldn't do me. Drink?
How did he meet his wife?
Christine? Well, I suppose you could say I was responsible for that.
I need a good woman, Keith.
Well, buy one.
No, listen to me. Listen to me, I mean it. I need a woman, a proper partner, someone I can talk to, someone I can start a family with before it's too late.
Advertise. Put an ad in one of those magazines. Internationally acclaimed artist seeks Girl Friday for meaningful relationship in Northwest 6. Place like this, money you got, there'll be an invasion. Of course, I didn't expect him to do it. I was just indulging him. But that's how Christine came into his life.
Thanks.
He was all right, Morris. You didn't know where you were with him sometimes. He could be a moody bugger, but I liked him. We had some good times together. I'll tell you what, I got some stuff on video if you'd like to have a look. Might give you a better idea of him.
Yeah, that'd be good, thanks.
Yeah, I went through this phase where if it moved, I immortalised it. Lift your hat up, that's it. Come on, Ruth, Joe, get in there, get in there. You took your hat before, Ruth? Yeah, you look like it. Come on. Right,
Is that thing on?
Yeah, come on.
This is my easel. Yep. And these are my paints. And over here, this is my office. And right. Last but not least, this is my couch, upon which I shall take my R&R and anything else I can lay my hands on.
Hello, Gerald. Hello, Mrs. Happy. Wish you were here. Come and see us, Are we rolling? This is cool. He contemplates his cash flow. That's not for sale. Neither is this. And neither is this. That's terrible. Neither is this. And neither is this. That's terrible.
Enjoying that, Dangerous?
No, Gov, not really.
I've got something a bit tastier for you. I think we found our motive.
I was Mr. Lehman's financial advisor. Well, I looked after the whole family, actually. Peps, ISAs, pensions, that sort of thing. About 4 months ago, Morris, Mr. Lehman, telephoned me. He said he needed to speak to me urgently. So we met, and he told me what he wanted. A life policy for a great deal of money. The sole beneficiary to be Mrs. Lehman. Well, it was quite a surprise. I promise you, in the past, when I'd raised the issue of life insurance, he'd pooh-poohed the idea. But of course, I said I would be very happy to help, that I'd check out the market and get back to him. And he said no. Now. I want to know now. And he sat and waited while I rang through to head office. Now, I obviously got the best figures that I could, but as I explained to Morris at the time, a man of his age, drinking and smoking like he did, it wasn't going to be cheap. But he just said...
I don't give a damn about that. This is very important. This is something special.
Did his family know about this? His brother?
Well, not from me. Client confidentiality is of the utmost. Now, whether or not he told them himself, I really don't know, but I doubt it. There was a certain amount of tension in that family.
What about his wife? Would he have told her?
I really don't know. I didn't ask him. Sorry. I very seldom spoke to her, to be honest. She's quite a difficult woman. No, actually, that's not fair. No, she's not very forthcoming. Not very easy to be with. But then again, Morris was potty about her, so there must have been a side to her that the rest of us didn't see. Well, in the bedroom, I imagine. You know, with her playing Mrs. Simpson to his Duke of Windsor, if you get my meaning.
So this policy would have been in place, what, 3 months before he died?
About, yes. I have the precise dates, of course.
And he didn't tell you why it was special?
No. All he would say was...
You'll know soon enough.
Whatever it was, he was certainly very excited about it. I mean, frankly, he was like a little boy. But you see, that was Morris. Up 1 minute, down the next. The morning that he died, he telephoned me. He was drunk. He was very drunk. But from what I could make out, he wanted to change the policy.
Change it in what way?
Well, I really don't know. Like I said, he was so drunk he could scarcely speak, and he was obviously in a filthy temper. 10:30 in the morning. I said, look, perhaps we should talk about this later. He called me all manner of things and threw the phone down.
Just you get over here straight away and just remember who's paying your wages, you stupid cow.
Well, you've been a great help, Mrs. Sterling.
Oh, how are you off for advice? Future planning? Anyone looking after you?
Sorry?
If you ever fancy a chat, consider me available.
By the way...
What's that?
You keep turning the toaster off at the wall.
You don't want the toaster turned off at the wall.
Otherwise I don't know, do I?
Tea? Christine O'Connor, March 26, 1996, charged under Section 15 of the Theft Act 1968 with obtaining property by deception from William Henry Dunbar. August 12, 1999, charged under Section 16 with obtaining pecuniary advantage by deception from Leslie John Armitage.
Anything you'd like to tell us, Mrs. Lehman?
Both charges were dropped as well, you know.
But it does seem to be a pattern. You take my point. What we can say, can we, is that this has been your career. This is the way you make your living, by becoming involved with men older than yourself, men who have certain needs.
Both charges were dropped.
And didn't include murder, no, nor an insurance policy for $500,000.
I knew nothing about that policy.
He didn't tell you?
No.
And you didn't in any way try to influence him?
No.
So why then do you think he suddenly took out this policy, when up to that time he'd always rejected it? Or so we've been given to understand. Why the sudden change of mind, Mrs. Lehman? What prompted him, do you think?
More than anything, Morris wanted a family, a child. I came to realize that he was obsessed by it. When I told him that I was pregnant, he got drunk and went over the top as usual. Hence the insurance policy, which I knew nothing about, and if I had done, I would have stopped him.
But why stopped him?
You've been through his bank statements. He had far less money than he was prepared to acknowledge. For God's sake, when did he last earn any? There was no way that he was going to be able to support the sort of premiums that a policy like that would have cost. Not for any length of time, anyway.
But it wasn't any length of time, was it, Mrs. Lehman? Just 3 months, as it happens.
Dr. Henderson, D.C. Davis, Wilston North. I've phoned.
You want to talk to me about Morris Lehman?
If that's all right, I'm sorry to catch you on your lunch break.
As long as I can carry on, I've only got half an hour.
Absolutely.
I've only just taken it up and I'm obsessed. The more I practice, the worse I seem to get. Is that just a stage I'm going through or what, do you think?
No idea, sorry. I'm a dance man.
I wouldn't stand there. I've got a very unpredictable backswing.
Going through Mr. Lehman's diaries, the bills he paid and so on, it seems he visited you quite often.
Yeah, more than most. Although nowadays...
Any particular reason?
It's important, this, is it?
It is, yeah.
Morris had certain medical obsessions.
With what?
Well, mainly on what was going on between his legs. He was terrified of becoming impotent. Like, completely impotent. He'd always had functional disability.
Could he have fathered a child?
Possibly, but I doubt it.
Did you tell him that?
No. In my opinion, it was better not to. Not Morris. Not very mature in many ways. Moody. Not too good at facing up to things. And of course he goes and marries a woman 20 years younger than he is.
But generally his health was good.
Eyesight was poor and it was getting worse. He should have worn glasses, but the ego wouldn't let him. Tried contacts, but didn't get on with them.
Thanks.
You wouldn't do me a favour, would you?
What's that?
Well, stand behind me and tell me whether I'm swinging from out to in or in to out.
Right. Out to in.
Bum, bum, and double bum.
Who else did you tell?
No one.
Someone, surely.
No.
You see, Mrs. Lehman, here's a man delighted when you tell him you're pregnant, and yet...
I'd been pregnant twice before. Before I knew Morris. Both times I'd miscarried in the second month. I persuaded Morris not to say anything.
Why tell him then? If it was an odds-on
I don't know why I told him.
You don't know why?
I can't explain everything I do. Can you?
Are you pregnant now, Mrs. Lehman?
No.
According to Dr. Henderson, you know Dr. Henderson, of course, it was highly unlikely your husband could have fathered a child. Unless, of course, it wasn't his child, or unless, for some reason, you'd lied to him.
As I said, Morris was obsessed with the thought of becoming a father. From the minute we were married, there wasn't a day go by when he didn't refer to it. Scarcely a night when he didn't try to make it happen. I'm afraid in his case, to try wasn't to succeed. The good doctor no doubt told you that he had problems. The more he tried, the more he failed, the more he drank, and the more abusive he became. I want you to be the mother of my child quickly became the why can't you give me a son, you useless bitch. In the end, I told him I was pregnant to shut him up, to get me off my back, as it were.
As simple as that.
That's right. As simple as that.
And what when he found out you'd lied to him, and you weren't pregnant?
I'd face that when it came to it. I've never seen the point of doing anything else. It's how I survived.
And when did you tell him, Mrs. Lehman?
The night before he died.
You told him what?
That I'd had a miscarriage.
Which is why he shot himself away and got so drunk.
Presumably.
And why he phoned Mrs. Sterling in the morning.
If that's what he did, yes.
And you expect us to believe he bought everything you said to him?
Believe what you will.
You're really asking us to believe it was that easy?
It's easy for a woman to lie to any man. Women lie all the time. Are you married? Ask your wife.
Anyone who had it in for him? Enough to kill him, you mean? Oh, well, I mean, he upset a few people, but not like that. Christ, no.
What's the word on his wife?
In terms of what?
Playing away from home.
What, another bloke? Well, possible, I suppose. Another woman? Well, who knows nowadays, eh?
No gossip.
No, I really think you're barking up the wrong tree. Mind you, women. Especially Morris's women.
Morris's women what?
Well, they took advantage of him something terrible. I'm talking about the local ladies, you understand, when he was out staying with me. Well, from what they used to tell me, and they were very naughty, very indiscreet, it wasn't so much a sex drive he was feeding as a bloody guilt complex. No wonder he had trouble performing. As soon as the sweat was drying on his back, he was riddled with remorse and they were playing him like a fish.
Was Henry's sister one of these women?
Carleen? Certainly she was. Why do you think he offered to look after young Henry? because Morris and Carleen attempted jiggy-jiggies, and he came over all guilty as per, and starts playing Baron Bountiful. I will give this poor unfortunate lad a new life, blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah. I could name about 3 families on that island. Did very well out of poor old Morris and his guilt complex. Me, I couldn't understand him myself. Maybe I should have met his mother.
Did Henry know about Morris and his sister?
Of course he knew. Everybody knew. Did he get the hump about it? Of course he didn't. See, what Morris could never get sorted was there he was, tying himself in knots, when all he had to remember was over there, they've only got 9 commandments. Adultery don't count.
To call the fire brigade. Changed the wheel, got back in the car, and they drove away. They drove away. They? Shit.
Good afternoon.
Excuse me.
Go on then, tell me something wonderful.
Car was rented by a German woman, Monica Nelson from Dusseldorf.
Ooh, Dusseldorf.
She met this Norwegian bloke staying at the same hotel. Thomas Alverberg from Oslo.
Oslo? Oh, well.
They were seeing the sights together. It was them, and he did change the tyre. What they can't confirm is the time. All they can say is it was somewhere between 10 and 11 that day. So we can take it she did leave the house when she said she did.
Doesn't mean she wasn't involved.
No, Garth, it doesn't.
But
I just don't think she had anything to do with it.
Oh, you don't?
No, I don't.
She's got the form, got the motive.
And I don't think you do either. Otherwise, you'd have challenged her.
You're right. You're absolutely right, Dangerous. Tell me something. Do you think I'm losing my objectivity, my perspective? Sometimes I think I am, losing my perspective. Now, why is that, do you think? Is it because I can't sleep? Is it because I can't wait to take my pension? Or is it because... No ice, thank you.
See you later.
Right.
I've had a thought about your locked door mystery.
What's that?
Spontaneous human combustion.
You mean he just burst into flames?
Cases have been documented for years,
Yeah, I know, Maude, but...
Charles Dickens used it to kill off one of his characters in Bleak House, an alcoholic named Krupp. True to the popular belief of the time, that spontaneous human combustion was caused by excessive drinking. Your man, he was a bit of a drinker, wasn't he?
He was, yes.
There you go, then. Excuse me. I'll see you down the pub.
Try not to catch fire.
There are stranger things in heaven and earth, Horatio.
Spontaneous human combustion, thinks Maud. what happened. Okay. His wife has just told him she's not pregnant, and he's been drinking all night. He's fallen over somewhere, cut his head, and he's depressed. And now he's hungover. His head hurts from the fall, so he flops down on the couch. But because he's 9 parts out of it, he doesn't close the blind properly. And the sun strikes down into the studio. Onto the magnifying glass. And onto the easel. That's it, Gov. That's what I think happened. The strong sun, the blind that wasn't closed properly, and the glass that happened to be at just the right angle.
Chancing, I mean.
Yeah.
A freak accident.
Yeah.
An act of God.
Possibly.
What about the key?
You stop me if there's anything you don't understand. All right, Henry? All right, Henry. Mrs. Lehman left the house around 10 o'clock. The man came with a parcel at around 12 o'clock. What were you doing during that time?
Nothing.
I can't hear you.
I was working.
What were you doing? What sort of work? Were you digging, cutting the grass, sweeping up? It's not hard, is it, Henry? All I want to know is what you were doing between the time Mrs. Lehman left the house and the man
For
came...
God's sake!
Look at it. Look at the book. Your book. Look at it. I'm going to read you the statement, and then if you think it's right, I want you to sign it. You understand that, Henry? I was sweeping the terrace when Mr. Lehman came up from the studio. He was very drunk. He went into the house, and I heard him going from room to room, shouting for his wife.
Christine! Christine! I know you're here somewhere. I know you are. Now stop pissing me about! Christine!
I looked through the window and saw him shouting at someone on the telephone.
Because I want to change it, that's why. What do you mean you can't? Just you get over here straight away and just remember who's paying your wages, you stupid cow.
He came out of the house with a bottle and went back to the studio. Then he started shouting for me.
Henry! Come here, you silly bugger!
I went into the studio, although I was afraid because when he was drunk like this before, he had beaten me. He asked me where his wife was, and when I said I didn't know, he called me a liar and started hitting me. I tried to get away, and he came after me, but he was too drunk and stumbled and hit his head on the corner of his desk. I didn't think he was badly hurt because he got up and tried to come after me again. I ran outside and locked the door because I was afraid.
Henry! Henry! Bastard!
Sometimes he beat me very badly and I hid so that people didn't see what he did to me. After a little time, I went back and looked through the window. He was sleeping. Big, ugly sleep like he always slept. I hated him for what he did to my sister, for what he did to Mrs., for what he did to me. I hate him. Then I saw the sun on the glass. I moved the glass like in my book. Then I left him and locked the door. Is there anything else you want to tell us, Henry?
That's it.
I'm sorry I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry.
He says he's sorry. He knows that he's been bad. What will happen to him?
Now he's been charged, there'll be a psychiatric report.
Due process of the law.
He caused your husband's death, Mrs. Lehman. Mind disturbed or otherwise.
I did care for him once, you know. My husband. Okay, I saw him as a John when I answered his ad, but I really did grow to care for him. I thought I could look after him. God only knows he needed someone. He was like a child himself. And then when I found out what I'd really married, I grew to despise him. If I'd known then what else was going on in this house.
What will you do now?
I don't know. Do what I can for the boy and then start again.
What does start again mean?
Whatever you think it means.
No regrets?
I don't deal in regrets, Mr. Davis. If it's happened, it's happened. Now, is there anything else? I've got some calls to make.
key?
I thought you might have been studying Houdini.
I'll see you in the pub.
Right. I can see your bum.
Art is not art unless it threatens your very existence.
Right. Right. I understand you got one under.
Under, over, sideways.
Alfie Clements, wife killer, right?
Night before last, he went under the Basingstoke to Norwich Express.
That's what he did her with, the iron. Heat of the moment, as it were.
It was over 28 years ago, Mr. Davis.
Sounds like detective work to me. You sure you got the right bloke?
I think I have, yeah.